Phil, the way I see it, with the ban announcement and everything coming up, Wizards has three choices, three possible, diverting timelines that they can choose for Legacy, and that will literally change the face. Whichever one they choose is literally going to change the face of how we perceive this format and how fans of the format determine their engagement with it. So let's get into that. Finding the right high-end cards for Legacy, Vintage, Pre-Modern, or Old School Magic can be challenging. That's where friends 3-for-1 trading come in.
3-for-1 Trading is one of Europe's top Magic the Gathering retailers with an incredible selection of premium singles, sealed product, and even full sets, all available with free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping.
They add fresh inventory every Wednesday with weekly deals and discounts. So whether you're hunting for that elusive piece of power, a Legacy staple, or something spicy for your collection, they've got you covered.
First high-end orders over $500 or 500 euros, use the code EDFREE to get free worldwide shipping.
Check them out now at the number 3, the number 4, the number 1.gg/ED. That link takes you right to the shop and helps support the channel.
Huge thanks to 3-for-1 Trading for supporting the Legacy community. Now back to the show.
Yeah, tell me about that. What are you thinking?
So first off, they can do nothing. They can just do nothing.
Yeah.
They can ignore Legacy altogether in the ban announcement, not even write anything up, and just be like, we just want to deal with Standard, moving on, right? They can do that for sure. That's the worst. To me, that is a worst case scenario for sure. That's the least, like, short of being like, we're doing this on purpose. We don't want Legacy to be healthy. Like doing something that would be insane. Like, they've never just been like, hey, we're actually particularly trying to destroy Legacy, right? They've been like malicious neglect for sure, but and I think that's what I'll label this like path as, malicious neglect, right? Where I just feel like they're just like, whatever, we don't care about this, it doesn't make us money, we don't have to worry about it, it's not a big deal. And and in our previous episode about the BNR, I kind of outlined like some of the reasons why Wizards might want to do that, or might think that like it doesn't matter to them, shareholder stuff, that sort of thing. But so the first one is the easiest path for Wizards, but probably the worst path for us, which is malicious neglect, right?
Yeah, you're saying that like if they just stop doing anything for Legacy, what happens to it?
Yeah, we don't want that.
Well, that's what they're doing now. So I'm curious.
Exactly.
What are the other two that?
So there are two other options, right? And I don't think that necessarily either one of these options has to come to full fruition at this BNR. I don't think that either one will be at like 100%. This is what we're doing. We're going to talk about it, that kind of thing, in the BNR announcement, right? But the second option is the community panel, where they pick people. Now, technically, they're that's like an A and B option. They could just hand it over to the players. I don't think that they're going to do that, or the community option. I think the community panel option is the more likely of those two like scenarios in scenario B. But they could hand a little bit of control off to the people who play the format and say, hey, we want your opinions. We need to know, from people on the ground, what's happening, right? So that's, I want to dive into that scenario a little bit and talk about the logistics of that, because a lot of sweaty keyboard warrioring was done about that in the last episode in the comments and stuff. So I want to see what we can kind of come up with for that first before we go into the third case.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
okay.
So Phil, what does that look like to you? What does handing like the community panel look like to you? Like, what do the logistics look like for you?
Well, first I would think that you would need to figure out what are the qualifications for somebody who would be communally agreed to be on the panel. Because I think that like a lot of the trepidation about the panel is like, how does anybody not, like, how do you put anybody on there that's not biased in a particular way about anything? And so like, I don't know exactly what they did for the Pauper panel, other than that they got people from all of the regions across the world. So that way there's like some amount of diversity by location. So it's not just like, oh yeah, America just determines the format for everybody in the world or anywhere else.
It's funny to me that that's an issue. Like, the Americans are like, oh man, we got to do all the American-centric Magic cards. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me as like a thing. I think that it would be fine if they chose all people from the UK, all people from the country of origin. Doesn't really matter to me. If they chose only people in Japan, I'd be like, whatever, as long as someone playing the format's controlling it, doesn't matter to me. But I think that it's interesting that you bring it up, because Sahar reached out to me and mentioned the same thing. And we're going to have an episode where you and I kind of sit back and sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Moderate, as you and Sahar kind of chat this out a little bit further. But I think it's interesting that you both bring that up as like the region matters. Continue, please.
I think that the region matters because each, like, there are, I mean, at least historically, maybe now, like, the format and the power level of cards has come a certain way where it's sort of like unified for the most part. But like, I can recall that, like, if you went into a certain region of the States, that like different regions had different level, like volume of players playing particular archetypes. Like, you would go, and I remember like Europe a long time ago was like a lot, like, was very heavy in Storm. Like, there were a lot of Storm pilots
and
in Europe.
lands and Storm.
Lands. Yeah. But like, depending on the, like, so I don't know to the extent that would be relevant nowadays, but like, the regions were different. So like, or like what you would run into in each region, like, you were more likely to run into lands if you went into like, you know, Maryland or whatever. And so like, you don't want people that are only experiencing one thing more often than somebody else to like have more influence over, like, if somebody's just constantly losing to Merit Lage and, you know, Lone Lock, it's like, you wouldn't want them to be like, well, we got to do something about this, when it's not actually a problem for the community at large.
Okay, so regionally, you want to diversify. Okay,
I think that like the benefit of doing that also is just like, if that was like you it's essentially like, could it be an issue? Maybe not, but
sure.
Like, could you avoid it just generally? Yeah, like,
let's avoid it. I agree with you on that. Go on.
It's like a rake you don't have to walk on. And then
to that end, Phil, I think that if that is something that we're worried about, bias in the region, we should also worry about bias in the platform, right? To that end, so and I'm not talking about like platform as like, you know, content creators. I'm talking about people who play only Magic Online, people who play only in paper, right? Because those are two very separate things, and we can see that bears out in the way people care about the format for particular things that they want banned, right? I think those formats incentivize separate play patterns.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you're going to play in paper, you're more likely to want to like actually play the game because you're making the trek and like going wherever you're going in order to play. Whereas like being able to sit at home and like not necessarily interact with anybody else, yeah, the experience is different.
Yeah, it's the red deck wins issue with like Arena. Like, people play best of one, red deck wins, and they try and like just jam as many games as possible and try and get that like 51% win rate, so that they can like, if you play Magic Online and you're doing it to grind, if you get in 20 times more matches because you're able to like burn through a bunch of matches, and your win percentage is slightly positive over the same amount of time, physical time, you'll be able to do better in that, right? Whereas, assuming that playing is free. Whereas for what's it called? For paper, you can't just queue into another match like on a Monday night. You know, like, you have to play your thing, right? So like, I think it's important to like kind of speak on the different incentives players have in different platforms. So I just want to throw that out there as another thing to consider.
Yeah, I don't know how you would like, how do you prove any of that? But that's like how do you prove that somebody only, like, I guess you just take their word, like, I only play on Moto, like, or I only play
I think
on paper.
that's like, I don't think anyone's going to be particularly disingenuous about what platform that they favor or play in. Like, I play probably more Legacy right now online, but I incentivize paper play as far as my like thoughts and concerns about the format are, you know?
Zach, do you know, for the Pauper panel, do you know how, like, I assume that all the people that are on the Pauper panel had some amount of notoriety within the Pauper community.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I only know of Alex Ullman.
I'm just thinking, like, if they got, like, it's not like if Wizards and Gavin didn't know the person or know the person had some sort of influence, how would they even know to reach out to them? Right?
Yeah,
like,
agreed.
How would they otherwise know that you exist? So I also wonder for that, like, what are your thoughts on if they adopted a Legacy community panel that they could just like, I don't know how you would prove that somebody is like a part of the Legacy community. I guess that
like
that
an
would
aficionado of some kind.
I guess that would just be like honor system. But like, do you think it would make sense for essentially like nominations, like the community at large like nominates.
Yeah, you could do it like the
people,
Heisman.
And then WotC is just like, okay, these are all the people that have been nominated. These are the people that like we know that we think would be good for the panel based on like the criteria that, you know, we're still figuring out. And then from there, like people then are nominated and then accept those nominations. Cause like I can imagine some people would be nominated and don't want to do it.
Yeah, well, so Phil, this is, you know, again, this is like we're working out the logistics of how this would work in real time. But like, do you know how the Heisman Trophy works? I think it's the Heisman Trophy. Every year, like I want to say it's college football. Is the Heisman college football? Someone correct me in the comments. Every year they give out this award for I think it's like either the best
like
offensive
the MVP,
or
right?
best offensive player, something like that. But all the previous people that have won that get to vote on that person. Eternal Durdles is proud to be sponsored by Moxfield.com. Moxfield is the best deck building website on the internet. You can find all of my and Phil's decks in links below, including decks from this episode. And if you do, you'll be directly supporting the channel. So it could be like, you know, champions of Eternal Weekend get, you know, kind of thing. It could be like that. Like where if you have, you know, they reach out to those people and do it that way, you know, make it sort of this weird, like, you know, in football, it's like this, it's very much like a brotherhood, you know, putting your time in kind of situation. I don't think that would work 100% for Magic per se, but I think that is a fine metric. People who care enough that they have won an Eternal Weekend, that is not nothing. Then the only thing that could incentivize is because you're not voting on people, right? You're not voting on like, oh, this guy I think is the best in the format, right? And there's biases that could happen in that, right? You're actually voting on what cards you want banned. So it's a little like, is he trying to win the thing so he can make his deck better? So there is that. But I think that something like that for like figuring out the notoriety level of people that they want to involve in it is actually not the worst idea, you know, like some sort of credential. I don't think that like, you know, for us, like we are a small channel. Like it's funny to me when people are like, oh, you guys just want all content creators to like choose how Legacy is. And I'm like, well, that would be probably fine, I think, because they're invested in the format. But like, it's not really my thing in particular. It's not a stance I'm on. But also like, we wouldn't like if it came down to like the biggest people in the you know format. I don't think they would care about our opinions that much. Like you've got like Bosch and Roll and Brian Cook and like Thraben Yu, and there are plenty of other creators that are much larger than us that they could choose. So I don't think that like we would be like in that realm of people that they would pick. And like, and I've said this before, if I wouldn't be like ecstatic to be picked, but I would probably step up and do it just because like I want a format that is curated. You know, I want someone to care about my format, and I know I do. But to that end, I don't think I want it, honestly.
No, I think it's equivalent to like, have you ever heard the notion that like anybody who wants to be elected to office should never actually be given the powers of any like political office?
But then like, you know, you just have a bunch of idiots that don't understand the Constitution running for office. So, I think that's a bad idea.
Like the idea is like if you think you should be president, that disqualifies you.
Mm-hmm.
It's in that to that end. It's like I also like if I would never want to be on the panel. Like I want the panel, but I would never want to be on it.
Yeah. I think that's also, so that's a double-edged sword to the panel is like they probably could find a ton of people that would be qualified and that would act accordingly and do the right thing. But those people also don't want that level of scrutiny. So then I think the next question, Phil, is does the panel have to be anonymous?
I don't know that it has to be anonymous because I think it would be better if you have transparency as to, you know, like who's controlling.
I agree.
Involved in decision making. And to that end, I don't know if this is what your third thing was going to be, but I was saying even like with all the logistics of how difficult the panel might be, I mean, they're doing it for Pauper and that seems to be working. But I don't know how competitive Pauper is as a format in the same way. Like there isn't an Eternal Weekend Pauper, but there is like Paupergeddon. You know,
like there's big Pauper events. Yeah.
There's like it's significant enough that I would think that that would matter. But the other thing that I think that WotC could start with is they talk about when they make a decision or don't make a decision, like the lack thereof taking action is in itself also a choice.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of course. I think that like the way that you
It's like
start,
that Rush song.
I think the way that you start is like right now they conceal all the data, right? They only let out so much. That's like at this point, it's like if we're not a PT format, like if we're not a format that's going to be on your flagship streams and whatever promoting your game, I don't see the benefit of withholding all the data.
Hiding the data. Yeah.
I understand that they're like, oh well, we don't want the formats to be like solved super fast, and it's like people are going to play enough, and also I think that like you get like if people saw that like I don't know if the data suggests on the back end that they're like, yep, legacy does not need any changes because of what we're seeing. It's like, well, share that with us. That way we trust you, right? Like, but then I think also what that does too is like, if you show us all the data and it's maybe somebody like could look at the data, see like, oh, actually this deck or these other decks or what have you that don't see as much play as they should given their win rate maybe have more room to be explored, and then that like sort of can build those strategies up. Or like the data suggests that like decks that were playing with this card or this card had higher win percentages than those that didn't, so maybe there's something there, so maybe we look at that. Like I think if they were just more open about what the data was, that like that might also guide players as to how to try and solve a format or like navigate a format that otherwise seems broken and needs to be fixed. Because like even though we do a lot of these ban discussions or like ways to improve the format, and like I actually want the format to be healthy and enjoyable. But like I played at
I would like to not have to ever do these. Like
right, exactly. And so like I'm thinking like what are the ways that like it's like also if instead of being like well it's all combo and these are the best cards and like everything is Tamiyo Bowmaster and Underground Sea or everything is Planar Nexus One Ring and Urza Saga or whatever, like that's all we're seeing at the top tables. But it's also like maybe it's not necessarily reflective of like the community at large. It's just like the stuff that does well begets more players that just continue playing the stuff that does well, and so like higher play rates lead to better performances, which leads to continuous. And I wonder if the data could sort of act as a guide, right? If there's something that we could latch onto or explore in that maybe that would be more interesting than what we currently have.
You're getting just a bit ahead of me. So the third thing, which I wasn't going to reveal until the end, was radical competency. So you've got malicious neglect, you have a community panel, and then you have radical competency. Radical competency is the ideal situation. So what does radical competency mean? It means that they actually put in the work and the effort behind their design teams and behind the people making the decisions to ban and unban cards to give them the resources to test things properly and test the format, and they're sharing that data. Radical competency.
So the putting resources behind it is a non-starter. They're never going to do that.
I realize that, but yeah. So we can dream. We can say this is what we would like. There's every part of this minus the malicious neglect is going to cost some resources, right? Like, but there have to be people that give a crap about the format. Like Wizards of the Coast does not make money off of Pauper, right? They don't make like a killing off of Pauper. There's not like that's all secondary market for the most part. No one's buying sets to get all the Pauper cards they need for their Pauper decks, right? But they do care enough that one of their key people is on that panel and is making decisions and is making announcements not on his own channel, not on like I guess it is technically his own channel, but he's speaking for the company. Like let's be honest,
totally.
Right? Like he's like Good Morning Magic is owned by Hasbro. Like let's not pretend otherwise, right? But that is a resource that person is putting forth in their job at Wizards of the Coast, right? Well, why can't we have somebody that champions the format like Gavin does, right? Like, why can't there be somebody, out there that works for Wizards of the Coast already, Aaron Forsyth, right? That's not going to happen. But I'm saying, like, somebody that can make those decisions and cares enough about the format that they're preaching radical competency. They're like, hey, here's what happened. When Gavin does those videos for Pauper, I'm like, man, what could be if somebody did this for Legacy? It would like ask your average Pauper player what they think of Gavin. They're gonna say, oh, he's great. Like he's he's out there caring about the format, that sort of thing.
My contention for Legacy is they may not have that person.
They don't.
And they're not going to hire somebody based only on that. So like, and it would be circumstantial that like they do hire somebody that then like, hey, I have the time and would like to be able to be this, the person in this position,
Agreed.
the person to legacy as Gavin is to Pauper. But like the one thing that they could do now, and the one that I think is actually like practical without too much logistical concern, is at least for legacy and probably for vintage too, is just release. Give us all of the data. Don't sandbag that one like you do the other
give
formats
us the
that you're
data.
actually trying to curate. Like they're trying to curate the younger formats in such that because they're their PT formats, they want to like withhold that way. It's not like super.
Yeah,
solved,
it's not
super
embarrassing
fast.
when the format gets solved in 2 days. But like
Yeah,
that's
now
not going to happen with Legacy.
The thing is every format gets solved super fast.
You're not going to be embarrassed.
Because
it might get solved fast, but you're not going to be embarrassed by the fact that you're giving out that data and it's getting solved faster because of it. Because for the most part, Legacy gets solved within like a month of every banning, right? Like
I think every
pretty
PT
quickly.
they've had for standard, like the last handful of years with all these like bannings and broken standards, has been thoroughly embarrassing. Like PT Final Fantasy, like only having VV and broken whatever, or like mono red where everybody's dying on turn 3 to each other and it's nothing but mirrors and like there's like one critical decision throughout the entire whatever every match. It's like maybe they're interesting for some people, but like I think it's like pretty typically like terrible for them to be like, look at this new set that we're promoting as part of this Pro Tour, and then none of those cards show up because they just don't fix any of the broken stuff. Like that's way more embarrassing to me than like whatever would be going on like with the formats that aren't seeing the light of day at that stage. So like Legacy is one of those things. And so I think that if they just were like, hey, we're going to take the burden off of you believing us when we tell you that we don't think that the format is broken, because this is what we're looking at. Like right now, we have to just believe that what they're saying makes sense. And from our experience and what we're doing when we play,
it does not
totally like not resonant at all with how they're speaking about like so much of the ban list discussions that we have ends up coming down to like, do you believe like what they wrote? Like this is clearly somebody like and a team out of touch with this stuff. But it's like maybe if they showed us the data on like what they were looking at to come to these conclusions, maybe we wouldn't like come at them so hard about it. But like I feel like that's the one where you don't have to go through bias and logistics or whatever. If they were just like, hey, here's everything we know about the format coming in that we're basing our decisions on. Here's why we're making that decision. Now you can disagree with that. Like we can look at the data and disagree about things, but at least then we don't have to go, what are you even looking at? Yeah. Which is like this barrier that we don't need,
All right. Before we go into the next section, because I have one more sort of important point that I wanted to point out. I wanted to just quickly, what's the word? Ask people, hey, how are you listening to us right now? Are you at work? Are you on the John? Are you on the commute to work? Do you do this every day? Well, have you thought about perhaps going to our Patreon at patreon.com/EternalDurdles and tossing us $5 and becoming a Durdle Maniac and getting these episodes ad-free through Patreon, completely ad-free, no ads whatsoever, and you don't have to worry about the YouTube algorithm like maybe serving it to you or whatever. You're getting literally 5 days a week of content from us in ad-free form. I think that's worth $5 to join us at the Durdle Maniac level. Beyond that, you can also do deck donations or do a question like a episode suggestion and we'll put that into. But I say all that to say this: it really helps the channel grow, and it has allowed us to continue to create more and higher quality content for you. As you can see, Phil's got his camera set up. I've got my camera. I've got a brand new camera as well. We got all these devices and everything. Our sound quality is excellent. That's all because people are able to support the channel and keep the channel going. Now,
that's my next upgrade. Once I figure out these lights, right now I got this camera.
That is the next upgrade.
Mic that I've been using here for however long, and I'm gonna upgrade that. That way, you guys can hear a sultry baritone when I complain about how you can't play Fair Magic anymore. And then from there, baby, who knows?
Yeah, I'll give you a little. It doesn't sound bad, but it doesn't sound great either, Phil.
Yeah, I just want to give you guys some low radio voice.
Yeah,
ASMR.
But to that end, Phil, so the other thing that I wanted to bring up that was in that ban announcement that is very interesting to me, and I think bears a few minutes of talking about, is they said that they were going to up the cadence of ban announcements, which I think is a great step in the right direction. Even if they're only doing that for standard, it opens the opportunity window for them to do it for other formats as well. And so, and we don't even know. We don't even know. They might not even talk about Legacy. Like I said, they could be in that malicious neglect era of Wizards of the Coast. I really hope that's not the case. But the fact that they were like, hey, this stuff happens too often, and we do, and if we want to support our 60 card competitive formats, we need to be, we're putting out more cards than we ever have before. We need to ban more cards than we ever have before, or at least touch base about the format more often than we ever have before. And I think, we've both complained about that, and I think that is a piece of griping that you did a few weeks ago. It looks like they're moving in that direction.
I think that the more frequently touching base obviously is great. Like just more transparency more frequently is obviously good. I think that for the stuff that is not their PT formats or their RCQ formats, I think they just need to sort of separate the ban announcement schedule. Like take Legacy off the scheduled ban things, take Vintage off the scheduled ban things, take anything that's not part of one of your actual curated tournament scenes, like the RCQs or your PTs or whatever that are qualifying for the PTs. All of that stuff, like if we're not on it, keep us off the we'll touch on it every 3 months, but it's going to be touch and go because we want people to be able to plan for the season for what they're going to do. When it comes to the Eternal formats like Legacy and Vintage, just if something is wrong,
fix it when it's a problem.
Just fix it. Like there doesn't need to be we want people to make sure that they can plan for the local that they're going to. It's just not the same thing. Legacy and Vintage get one event every year that's actually sponsored by and supported by WotC. So as long as they haven't done it before where they knew that there was a problem and we were just you know what, we're not going to ban things right before Eternal weekend. People have made plans. And it's okay, that's fine. But for the other 11 months of the year, if there's a problem, just fucking fix it. It's also, that part doesn't seem all that hard to me.
Phil, it's also I know I touched on this in the last episode that we had about this. Banning a non-dual land is not the end of the world. People will pivot. They have collections. They have friends. The format is community-wise is small, but very mighty in the terms of getting to borrow stuff for big tournaments that are coming up. It's super weird to me, and this is something that Eternal Glory touched on in the middle of summer. It's super weird to me that the window for the ban is in between both the US and Europe Eternal weekends. And now, I don't know, am I going to be able to get my 100 reps in? Yeah. Am I going to be able to get 100 reps in after they make that ban announcement? Well, no, I've only got 13 days after they make the ban announcement before I have to have my deck together. I'll be fine. If they ban a card from my deck, Phil, I'll pivot. I'll figure out a different deck to play. And almost every Eternal player that cares enough to go to Eternal Weekend is going to be able to shift, is going to have a backup plan. Not everyone is jumping to this format with I can only play one deck, most people are, and this is, they should be catering to the most people, not the one random guy who only owns, he only has City of Traders, so he can't play anything else but Blood Moon Stompy, that guy is, sorry, that one person, we shouldn't ruin an entire format for that one person that only has one deck and can never pivot,
I have a mixed take. I think that's a little bit straw man-y. I think more so than but I agree with you. I don't think I agree with the lens that you're putting it through. I agree that they should do it. You and I are on the same page about it. My POV is that you don't need the people who otherwise wouldn't be able to pivot. You don't need to be oh, we're fucking those people over. You're not. I don't think that the inability to pivot or play a different deck, I think that that whole argument to me feels a little strawman-y because it's oh, if we ban this one thing, what will people do? They'll find the other card to play in that deck.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Every time they were with all the Entomb talk, they were we're going to ban everything else other than Entomb except Entomb. And then the deck just kept slotting in the next best thing.
Yeah.
And the next best thing was pretty obvious almost immediately to everyone. But if they got rid of whatever the thing is, the next best thing just comes in. It's not those archetypes are obsolete. And I think that the argument that any one card obsoletes an entire macro type is overblown.
Well, here's
and I say that to be almost if let's say Entomb got the axe, and then it's oh, if you ban Entomb, then Reanimator just ceases to exist. And I go, how uncreative are you?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing is Here's the point I'm making, Phil, is we can agree that the number of people that get affected by that to the point where they're like, I can't possibly build another deck, right? They have to make a ban, and there's 2 weeks before a tournament. The number of people that affects is pretty minute in the grand scheme of people who would be coming to this event. Can we agree on that?
My instinct is yes, but I don't actually have any grounding to support that being true or not.
So,
or more true
accept
than
my
not
premise.
True, you know what I mean?
Accept my premise that that it affects significantly less people than they're making it out to.
Yes, if you and I were to assume the position that it affects a lot less people than it seems based on how they speak about it, yes. But I don't actually.
How
know,
many people does not banning a card in a format that has been historically broken for over 5 years? How many people does that affect when they go to Eternal Weekend? How many people's bad time is that? It's literally everyone in the tournament.
Yeah, I think that's
single person in the tournament.
That's more so the side of the piece where you and I fully agree, which I think where most people have, like, where I do know that is like the notion in total, because I do know a lot of people that aren't going to Eternal Weekend that otherwise would this year, just because they don't like the format, because they don't want to run into the same decks over and over again, like with all the broken stuff that's otherwise uninteresting. And surprisingly enough, you know, I played at the pre-modern local, and whenever I talk to people online, pre-modern related, they're like, anybody who's a legacy player that's like sort of moved over into that is also just like, yeah, I don't have any interest in playing Legacy right now. I have this alternative that I'll do instead until like they do something. And it's like, oh man, that's a shame.
We even have a friend that's going specifically to play pre-modern at this event.
Dude, there's an art like I'm playing obviously Legacy Champs, but there's going to be a lot of pre-modern over the weekend.
There is.
And like there's all like the Legacy Trials and stuff. And I'm more likely to play the pre-modern events than I am the other Legacy events, which is weird. We have a Legacy podcast. Like I want to play Legacy. But I think that the easiest thing for WotC to do, without actually having to change any of like effort on their end, is just share with us the data, offload some of that, let us convince you of our thing. And I think that like that's the easiest lift that asks nothing of them and affects their bottom line in no way.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you guys think? Is there a fifth possible answer? Are you going to Eternal Weekend? Did you decide to not go to Eternal Weekend because of the way they've handled the ban announcements this year? Let me know in the comments, and we will catch you on the flip. Join us at patreon.com/EternalDurdles. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button.
You can also support us on patreon.com/EternalDurdles, which now offers the new Deck Donation tier.
During July, the Deck Donation patrons will get a 2-for-1 special where both Phil and I will run your deck through a league.
I'll play literally whatever you want.
So brew your spiciest or stock us up with a stock list.
I'll literally play whatever you want.
Thanks for watching.